seasons, and as his game has grown immensely, particularly playing this past club season with Ring of Fire in the club men's division, you've seen his game develop as he's become faster, stronger, and when you add that to his incredible sense of time and space, it makes him a real threat to attack. And you can see here it's partially a little bit of burst, but also just timing it up so that you get a layup on the other end. And that just makes your thrower's job very easy. Continue to Hawkins. And there's just a wide, where's the defender? You can't even find him because Smith's timing is so good.
What, if anything, did those first 2 points teach you about what we're going to see over the course of this battle to 15?
It could be a very fast-paced game, although I imagine that both of these coaching staffs have some adjustments they're planning on unveiling over the course of the matchup. These are teams that, like we said, have further aspirations than just pool play success, but know the value of winning their respective pools. And in a year in which we've talked about the field being deeper than ever, every extra edge can be the difference between achieving your goals and failing.
You mentioned the brain trusts. As we see Matt McKnight playing a deep point, launching the pull for Darkside. David Allison, Matt Gushohannes, Ben Snell, Anders Jungst. Among the Darkside coaching staff, Daniel Zhu, a former UNC player as well, now coaching too. Obviously, Jake Smart has been one of the top coaches regarded for his brilliance in the men's division of College Ultimate. Jacques Nissen, speaking of brilliance, able to toe the line and keep it in bounds.
Early crossover reps for both Rutledge Smith and Dylan Hawkins coming out on this deep point for UNC.
Well, there's something to be said for play your best players as much as you can, because who knows how long we're going to get to play. There's more stormy weather that could be coming this way in this near future. So far, we have seen smooth offense from both sides. Rosenberg to Gordon, 2-1 Brown.
Leo Gordon involved in both of Brown's opening scores, and he's been drawing a matchup with Grayson Trowbridge. Trowbridge kind of the stopper for this UNC team as Nissen makes an excellent catch that maybe on a throw he didn't even expect. And Trowbridge has been kind of seasoned as the defensive ace, and now he's really getting to test his mettle against one of the premier cutters in the division. So far, got to say that Gordon's winning the matchup, but when you're a D-line guy, all you got to do is win one for it to feel like it was worth it.
Well, this Brown program, certainly one of the standards, since 2000. So basically this century, UNC has won more titles than anybody else with 5. Brown has won 3 championships this century. That's third most in the men's division. Carlton Cutt has won 4 titles there in the 2 spot heading into this weekend. Mentioned Brown's up and down regular season. Their season record was just 24-10. Disappointing final day at Easterns when they lost 4 straight games to finish the tournament. But a strong performance in regionals from Brown. They took down UMass in the regional final 15-11. Meanwhile, UNC has lost only 3 games all year, which frankly is a pretty mediocre year for Darkside Men's Ultimate.
It's got people thinking they might be weak this year. Maybe this is our year. I don't think UNC would share that attitude.
Pignoni keeps it moving. Singleton for Dameron. Lightning bolt deep in the distance. Hopefully going in the other direction. Pignoni breaks the mark, and it continues into the end zone for Eli Freed.
Fortunately, we won't have to clear the fields quite yet, Evan, but these teams are scoring like lightning. I mean, this has been fast-paced. They are on the attack. They sense they're going to push the pressure on one another and see who's going to crack first. Easy break side motion as the Freeds finish this point off. Younger brother Seth, rookie on UNC, up ahead to Eli.
Yeah, you ask the Darkside leadership about which young players have made an impact, and they just rave about what Seth Freed has brought to this team this year. Those brothers collaborating, the raindrops bringing the umbrellas out. And it's not sudden death, Keith, but it very well could be like first turnover loses the way things have gone through the first 4 points. Neither D has really come close to a block so far.
This Brown team in an unusual situation, Evan, after a rostering snafu.
That's right.
Caused an issue for them. So they actually, their team captains and managers have to sit out one game during the course of the day. So that does include Jacques Nissen, but he will sit out the next game that they play against Alabama Huntsville. Caleb Morin missing this game for Brown.
I did chat with Jake Smart and the Brown coaching staff. They would not confirm that reporting. To the corner of the end zone, and Ben Dameron rips it down for the first turnover of the game.
Gordon hanging one up, and Dameron happy to eat it.
We are seeing UNC crossover multiple guys early in this game. Rutledge Smith, Matt McKnight out there to handle after the turn. Veteran D-line cutter Andrew Lee, considered kind of the heartbeat of the team in the past, but there's an easy turnover, intercepted by Brown's Elliott Rosenberg, and one quick dish later, it's 3-2.
That could be a difference-making characteristic for this Brown O-line, is in the event that they do turn it over, which isn't that common for them, can they get it back? And to do so against a UNC team that's also bringing offensive personnel to bear on their D-lines is impressive. As you see Dameron just casually pulling that down. And then Rosenberg with a smart play spots that exactly. And then the tap in for the goal. Rosenberg, one of the key players, behind this Jacques Nissen and Leo Gordon duo that most people know so well from Brownie in Motion, is a cast of characters who feel probably a little bit disregarded as they're in the shadow of their big-time teammates. But you look at Rosenberg and Cal Nightingale, Cam Kearney, Eli Chang, the rookie. I mean, this team believes, hey, we're deeper than people think.
So the dark side D-line does not convert the first break chance of the game. We're still on serve.
And speaking of Brown's depth, they're digging into it now. As no crossover here. First point without any of those offensive stars on for them. And they go zone to try and slow it down. This can actually just be a strategy to buy your key players some extra rest with a long zone point.
The disc may be a little wet. Gust of stormy wind could pop in at any moment. Seth Freed back to Josh Singleton. Pignoni to Singleton. Darkside with such poise and composure in their O-line backfield. No one ever looks rushed with the disc.
Brown really committing resources to around the disc and staying in it despite nearing the red zone.
Pignoni, a couple pirouettes, finally resets and gets it right back. Brown staying in the zone, even just a few yards from the goal line. Pignoni throws a few fakes and opens up the hole to Eli Freed.
That look like a D-line guy to you, Evan? Pignoni showing he can be the point guard that operates this offense and using a little pass fake. I think I saw Serena Ionescu throw that same look at Caitlin Clark a couple nights ago. A little dipsy-do one way and open up the space for Freed coming down for his second goal.
I feel like, Keith, you could create a video just teaching young kids about how to run zone offense, exactly what Darkside just did. Patient, fakes, pivots, quick movement, taking every sure thing.
You got to make the defense respect a lot of different options. If you let them pigeonhole you into one look, that's where they'll jump on a play that maybe you didn't expect come out of a lane that you weren't looking for. But when you could stay dynamic, keep the disc moving both side to side and attacking up the middle, it puts so much pressure on that zone defense to execute.
There was one upset this morning in the men's division. The Michigan men taking down Vermont. Keith, how surprised were you by that result?
Very surprised. I mean, Michigan had a pretty mediocre season, come in as the final seed. Vermont coming out of that vaunted New England. But, hey, it's nationals. You gotta put them out on the field.
Michigan is only 2.5 years removed from playing in the semifinals.
They got guys with club nationals experience on that lineup, too.
Here's Nissen. This is the final go for Jacques. He's continued the string of just dominant, kind of once-in-a-generation players to come through this Brown program. You know, recent years, Mac Hecht and John Randolph led Brown to a national championship, but Jacques, it might be his turn this year to lead the way, dishing to Nightingale. Second score for Cal.
And after that, throwing that assist, he puts out his arms as if to say, what else you got? That's not going to be enough. And watching Jacques Nissen evolve over the course of his career has been a real treat. A player who maybe was a known recruit, had been a strong player in the YCC and high school level, but I wouldn't say it was a 5-star coming in, but just has evolved, has become more and more athletic and explosive, and added to his really diverse throwing repertoire. He's one of the most dangerous offensive players in the game, and some might argue he's one of the more dangerous players at even the club level. So to be able to do that against college defenders might feel like easy work after what we've seen him do both in the UFA and a club.
Two of the Callahan finalists are in this game, Jacques Nissen for Brown and Rutledge Smith for UNC, which compels me to ask Keith Rayner the question. Keith, who do you think should win the Callahan, and who do you think will win the Callahan?
Oh, you're going to ask me to go into the minds of 18 to 24-year-olds and try and figure out what they're going to do. That feels like a trap, but you know, I got to say I liked Rutledge Smith's video the best. So
is that the answer to one of those questions?
It is. I think you would peg Jacques Nissen as the favorite, though. If I had to put my money on who I think will win, I think it'll be Jacques Nissen. But
interesting. Uh-oh. 3 horns is not the sound we were hoping to hear. That means a weather delay. Wah, wah.
That wasn't my Callahan take? That wasn't too hot?
No. Unfortunately, Keith, your Callahan take was just lukewarm. I, by the way, think Aiden Downey is going to win it. I think Jacques probably should win it, but I think Downey is more beloved by the entire division. But we'll see. We'll find out. Well, theoretically, we'd find out Sunday afternoon during the semifinals, but who knows where the tournament will be Sunday afternoon. The story through 7 points here. Each side with one turn. UNC had the only break chance. They didn't really get it very far. And we are on serve 4-3 Brown through the opening first quarter of this pool play game in Pool A.
Offenses are hot. As we're going through this one, all holds. Brown and UNC.
Memorable, bizarre experience in 2024, but preceded by this national championship win in 2019 for Brown over North Carolina, and then the first college nationals after the pandemic. North Carolina taking down Brown in the semis. They did it again in 2022, and then last year on Universe Point in the quarters, it was dark side over Brownie in motion, courtesy of Singleton to Hawkins at 14 all. We welcome you back to Madison. The sun albeit briefly, has made an appearance over the past 15-20 minutes. And we resume this pool play battle between the top seed, Dark Side, and the 8 seed, Brownie in Motion, with Brown leading 4-3. 7 points earlier, Keith Rayner, and if anything, turns are going to be at a premium in this game. The two offenses were incredibly crisp in the opening 7 points.
Very strong offensive showings. Defense is still figuring each other out, and so far the defenses have also done some crossing over of some of their top-end talent. That has not done anything to abate the offensive attack from both Darkside and BMO. But somebody's got to crack. I don't think we're going to get a perfect game the rest of the way.
Keith, how did you enjoy your second weather delay today?
Oh, it was even better with more time.
North Carolina on offense, trailing 4-3. A round that was originally scheduled to begin at 10:30 this morning, then was moved back to 10 a.m. Now is resuming here right around 3:37 local time. And the first turn of the game for the UNC offense gives Brown an early break opportunity after the pause.
Very favorable field position. This is a big threat for UNC.
Some of the big names out there crossing over for the Brown D-line with Gordon and Nissen, but right now the disc belongs to Jason Tapper, marked by Matt McKnight. This would be a huge opportunity for Brownie in Motion to make a first half statement and seize the lead.
Coming in 5.
What's the stall count, Keith?
6, maybe?
Yeah. Nissen, shy of the goal line. Resets.
Darkside's running their red zone. They have a specific defense they use just to try and tamp down on this type of attack.
Pretty good defense from Hawkins, but the bid unsuccessful, and Brown breaks.
A hopeful bid by Seth Freed, not enough to stop a score for Brown. And after all of the tidy offensive possessions that began this game, it was a simple misthrow just outside their own end zone that's put Darkside behind the 8 ball. These two teams basically pioneered this style of offense, along to some degree with Pittsburgh in the men's division. And they're both very proficient in the red zone, attacking with their star players going up the line.
Such bizarre circumstances that these teams have had to deal with. So much anticipation. You get the schedule. You think about, all right, 10:30 Friday morning, we got the biggest game of our pool against the other top seed, and then that round gets pushed back, and then you have another delay, and it's about who can handle these extreme different circumstances better over the course of the next hour. That's going to have a leg up in Pool A.
The nature of winning a national title requires teams to figure out how to adapt to new situations, but right now, this national championship is taking that to a new level for some of these teams.
Leaping snag by Rutledge Smith. Here's Freed coming underneath. Eli Freed to Ben Dameron. Saw another lightning bolt in the distance, Keith.
I'm hoping that lightning strike stays far away from us. Had enough delays for one day.
Singleton back for Dameron. And around for Pignoni. McKnight. Floater for Hawkins. Pignoni. And Freed was in. That's the third goal for Eli Freed, and Darkside back within one.
I don't have a hat to throw, but we got a nice little hat trick early on for Freed, who is a player who's mostly known for his defensive acumen. An electrifying defender. He's gotten some big-time layout blocks in his career. And like Pignoni, is now transitioning on the offensive end. And I think gives this team a unique amount of defensive resistance after the turn to have the both of them. And you've already seen that Dan Moran and Rutledge Smith will get out there for some D-lines as well. But it was the Brown defense that I think that Merritt mentioned. They did a great job making it a little more difficult to get into the red zone than I think what UNC is used to. And you're seeing that familiarity between these two teams, both from their times competing against one another, but also through having some similar systems and philosophies. So they're figuring out how to deny each other every time they're practicing against themselves. They're getting better at how to play against one another. That's potentially what's made these two teams such a classic matchup.
Right before the weather delay earlier, we were talking about these two coaching staffs. Jake Smart leading Brown, David Allison leading North Carolina. And these two programs certainly do it in different ways, the way they recruit, the way they build. But both championship programs several times over this century. Nissen will stay out there. Jacques originally from the Washington, D.C. area. His freshman year was 2020, so he had his true freshman season wiped out. We didn't get to see Jacques at Nationals until 2021. And that was a fascinating semifinal that Brown and UNC played under the lights out west.
A part of a great lineage of superstars that have come out of Brown. An ultimate school through and through.
Nissen wants it all. Leo Gordon is there. Picture perfect from Jacques Nissen. And Brown leads by 2.
And that is a big statement score for the Brown Stars. That is a we take what we want sort of possession. You may know that this offensive possession is about to run through Jacques Nissen and Leo Gordon. What are you going to do about it? And the answer right there was nothing.
Had a Stubbs to Vandenberg feel to it.
You can certainly draw parallels between those two teams. Take another look at the set play. Just frees up Gordon. And look at all of these defenders. We can stop right here. Look at this. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different UNC defenders chasing on this play. And none of them have a play on it except for the cutter, Leo Gordon, the intended target.
Dark side back on O. Singleton quickly to Dameron. Brown up 1 break. Only 3 turnovers total in the game's first 10 points. Only meeting between Brown and UNC during the regular season was at Easterns. Carolina winning 15-12. Singleton over the defense and into the end zone for the score.
Evan, that Easterns matchup that you mentioned, I believe came in consolation. Not a place you expect to see Brown versus UNC, but with how competitive the field has been this year, that's par for the course.
Rutledge Smith scored North Carolina's first goal, and the last 4 had been collected by the Freed brothers. 3 for Eli, and most recently here for Seth.
They're a talented pair. Seth is slotted right in to this offense, and I think that UNC has had something of a luxury of being able to not only get young players talented enough to insert into their offense, but also recognizing that we have such good O-lines that we can afford maybe to even take a little bit off the total strength of our O-line in order to train up the next guy. And you could trace that lineage all the way back to, Matt Gushahanis taking centering passes and are catching the pull and centering it up to Jonathan Nethercutt. But you can see over the years how that became Elijah Long, Rutledge Smith, Josh Singleton, and now Seth Freed getting that nod as the rookie on this O-line who will be expected to step up into a feature role in the future.
You forgot another guy who's a prominent coach on the Carolina staff right now, Matt Gushahanis, but you're absolutely right. Nissen will be picked up by Rutledge Smith here, the two Callahan finalists. Rutledge said last week he's very excited to try to match up with Jacques in this game. Nissen, meanwhile, said that he's improved his backhand this year. He feels like in the past he relied on his flick, now going with the backhand, but the backhand is his first mistake of this game. Carolina has its second break chance right here, an opportunity to tie. Looking for it all. Long run. That's a dark side score. Grayson Trowbridge hauls in the full field shot, and it's 6-all.
That's how you take that turnover and make it stick right in Jock Nissen's craw. McKnight sensing the opportunity to go for it. Trowbridge taken off the other way. The miss by Nissen, and McKnight says, I'll show you how to do this, son.
Nissen did not miss by much on the replay there. Perfectly fired by McKnight, though.
And we saw Leo Gordon blitzing past four defenders, and there, Trowbridge being tailed by Nissen and Gordon.
Have not needed to water the turf as a staff today. The Mother Nature's done that itself. Sliding, scoring snag from Grayson Trowbridge. So now each team with one break apiece. And there's certainly there's something about this that almost we need to remember. This is nationals. It's been such a weird day, but the ramifications of this game are massive, especially when you think about the bracket and what happens to the team that finishes second in Pool A. That's how you get a 1 versus 2 matchup in quarters, is when you get an upset in Pool A or Pool B. We've seen it in the past. Some folks picking North Carolina to play Georgia in the final. Others could reasonably predict North Carolina UGA in quarters if the right results play out.
Absolutely stacked field at this Division I college championships, and Ultiworld subscribers will get to seeing it all. Got over 70 games, pre-quarters, quarters, all the way up into the semifinals. We've got a lot, as well as a lot of great content on the site, in-depth analysis. Dive in, ultiworld.com/subscribe. Make sure you're not missing out on some of this tremendous action in Madison.
Keith, folks who have been following Ultimate for the past 5 to 10 years have no idea how lucky they have it. I'm a little bit older than you. I was thinking back to when I was in college, following college nationals from afar, and I'd be excited to be able to watch the final on CSTV, College Sports Television, a month after it happened. Every other result I learned by just clicking Control-R and reloading Score Reporter. Twitter didn't exist in 2005.
Evan, they would send you a magazine 3 months later. That's when you would get your tournament recap.
I literally watched Brown beat Colorado in 2005 Nationals by clicking reload on my browser on my computer at home. It was an unbelievable game.
Will Arnold, Paul Vandenberg,
Josh Zipperstein, Bo Kittredge, Josh Ackley, Adam Simon, the Mahoneys, and others. Legends in the college division. Meanwhile, we're making more legends today. Gordon flips it over the top and a slam dunk score for Brown. Luca Duclos Orsello makes it 7-6.
Gordon's transition into the backfield has really expanded both his arsenal but also the angles of attack for Brown. Really known as a speedster. He has brought a lot to his game, and now he is just a really, truly difficult matchup.
Looked like one of Jacques' forehands.
I remember watching him lead Berkeley High School to High School National Invite Championship a number of years ago, and he was a standout player then, but he's gotten even better since then for sure.
The close side wing, the wing that's on the side of the trap is more conservative farther back.
Pretty strong team, too. They had Riley Kirkman-Davis, Seth Wells on that squad.
Not too shabby. Seth Wells here with Mama Bird. What are your thoughts on Colorado? There's a level of indecision about what this Colorado team is. Are they the number one ranked team, or are they kind of a middle-of-the-pack, borderline quarter squad?
Well, every year we do the Beat Charlie Challenge and let everybody pick against Charlie Eisenhower to see who they're going to pick to go far. And I'll tell you what, there was a lot of Cal Poly slow and a real lack of faith in Mama Bird. I think people might be sleeping. Zone look from Brown now.
Colorado's had all day to sleep. They're not scheduled to play until after this round ends, whenever it does. Have not taken the field yet today. Anticlimactic way to start nationals for sure. Be interesting to see how they handle it. That's also true for UMass, the 3 seed. Doesn't usually play until round 4 on day 1. Ben Dameron taking his time. Pignoni double team, so the blade might have been nicked by one of the defenders, but it gets to Freed in the end zone anyway.
It's all Freed's over here. But a chance to sing the praises of Ben Dameron, a player we haven't talked about, I feel like, enough in this game. Hasn't really gotten to quite make the impact you might expect from him, but a standout.
He's had an unbelievable career. I mean, truly. And he won a club championship before he won a college championship. And he's won the last 3 college championships out of Paideia in Atlanta. One of the few non-North Carolina natives on this dark side squad.
He was an absolute star for the U.S. national team in the under-24 World Championships. Last year, runner-up for Offensive Player of the Year to some guy named Jock Nissen. And also second runner-up for Player of the Year behind Nissen and winner Henry Ing. But already building a nice little trophy case for himself. And one thing that he brings to this team is just a fierce intensity. He plays at 100%, hard motor, and a lot of energy and emotion he brings to the field. And that passion can be really powerful for a team that I think is known for their discipline and execution.
In the official event guide, there are 34 players listed on the dark side roster. Dameron, one of 4 who does not hail from the state of North Carolina.
You think University of Georgia still wonders what could have happened if Dameron had joined a lot of his YCC teammates on that JoJo roster?
That's right, former ATLian. Brown trying to take half. Each team has 1 break so far. We've only had 4 total turns through the first 14 points.
Evan, I love this. We got stars versus stars. Dameron and Smith matched up with Nissen and Gordon.
Usually you think of an offensive weave with 3. Now a third member of the Brown squad gets involved, but unable to put up much resistance. The dark side defense watches Brown take half as Rosenberg scores his first goal. 8-7 Brown at the break.
And I wouldn't necessarily call what we're seeing chirping, but there's a lot of intonations to these post-score movements from both sides. And you think these teams don't take this a little personally? You think Brown doesn't take those eliminations at Nationals a little personally? There's something more on the line than just who might win Pool A.
Not only that, the past results, I think they feel they are worthy of being a champion. And to be one, you got to beat one. North Carolina standing in their way, but the 8 seed Brown from Providence, Rhode Island, has a 1-point halftime lead over the squad from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. 2-time champ during his playing days, Matt Gushohannes, joins us now, coach of Darkside. Matt, what a weird feel this whole day has. How has your team tried to maintain its focus, and how do you feel about where your team is right now at the half?
I mean, it's certainly pretty different, pretty difficult to maintain focus and energy throughout all these delays. I think they're just trying to connect with each other and maintain excitement about the experience, about Nationals overall. And I think we're doing pretty well. It's a pretty clean first half, like 2 really strong offenses, not super strong conditions, all things considered. So we're in a good spot. I think, everyone's kind of feeling out the game and trying to get comfortable despite all the delays.
There's so much continuity across these 2 rosters, the 2 programs who've seen each other in these big games so many times, and there's so many similarities between the styles of play. What is it like matching up with Brown for this UNC team, given the history between the 2 programs?
Yeah, I guess it's sort of your cliche, like, chess match kind of thing. We know they're making great adjustments. We're trying to make adjustments of our own. There's not a whole lot to be said. I mean, they're playing their game. Like, we're trying to slow them down. We're trying to take the ball out of the hands of their best throwers. They're trying to do the same. They're trying to make us uncomfortable. Who's to say what comes next?
Matt, real quick before we let you go, do the conditions and the fact that lightning could strike at any time add urgency to the start of the second half in terms of your line calling?
I'm sure that they will. I mean, I think you saw us calling lines with some urgency at the end of the first half, to be sure, and I'm sure that's going to happen in the second half. We're keenly aware of the possibility of the game ending early or being delayed again. So, yeah, almost certainly the time is playing a factor right now for both teams. I have no doubt.
Gooch, thanks so much. The old hat you're wearing looks great, and good luck going forward.
Sweet. Thanks, guys.
Matt Gushohannes, thanks so much for joining us. The 3-time reigning champs are trailing by 1, but we are on serve. On a day marred by lightning strikes, will the top seed go down in pool play? Brown 8, North Carolina 7, halftime on day 1 here at Nationals. We're back here in Madison with North Carolina trailing Brown 8-7. In the women's division, number 1 seed British Columbia is trailing Tufts at the half 8-6. So some spicy midday matinees here in Madison. The first half stats, very few turns, only 3 total break chances, and pretty clean offense, as Gooch said.
Very nip and tuck first half. Very small margins, and that amplifies the value of every mistake, of every big play. So a little bit more weight on them. And we'll see how these players handle that pressure. I think given the extensive histories of the top end, that will probably bear out pretty nicely, but you never know where you might see a fault line, or maybe it'll be one of these young players who are in key roles. We'll see what happens.
All right, I believe we got Jonathan Stout of the Brown coaching staff. Coach Taylor? Yeah, Coach Nate Taylor joining us. Coach, your quick thoughts on what's happened, what this day has been like, and how do you win this game?
And that's what we've gotten. A couple of really high-powered offenses trading blows. And, this is the style of game we expected, the style of game we played them in last year at Nationals, and looking forward to see what the outcome is.
What kind of defensive wrinkles do you pull out of the pocket to try and slow down the UNC offense that's been playing at a high clip?
Yeah, we just try to mix it up on them. Try to keep them guessing. Sometimes we'll force this way, sometimes we'll force that way. You saw our zone look there, and got a couple cards up the sleeve.
All right, Nate, looks like the second half's about to start. We'll let you get back to work. Thanks so much. Good luck.
Hi, Mom.
Nate Taylor working on the Brown staff with Jake Smart and Jonathan Stout. And Darkside will receive to begin this second half. We're on serve, but Darkside is going to need at least one more break to win this game. Wouldn't it be quite the story if on day one here at College Nationals we saw each of the 2 number 20 seeds win their first game and each of the 2 number 1 seeds lose their first game? We're halfway there with the 20 seeds getting surprising victories. Binghamton over UCSB in the women's. Michigan over Vermont in the men's. And the both number 1 seeds trailing technically at the half while Darkside here is on serve.
Have to go back to the stats and info department to see if that occurrence has ever come up before.
I'd be shocked if that confluence of events has happened before.
Both these teams mostly doing a good job keeping each other out of their initiating set plays. Seen a lot of handler-to-handler connections to begin possessions.
Dylan Hawkins underneath for Dameron. Lightning bolts continue to flash in the distance, drawing ooh and ahs from the fans. Meanwhile, the players focused on the task at hand. Singleton surveys. McKnight gets free. Looks like there's a pick call. Disc back to McKnight. And now we tap it in for Singleton. The 3-time reigning men's division champions of the college division, North Carolina Darkside. Currently down 1 in their opening game here at 2024 Nationals, and a goal line pancake drop by Josh Singleton. Stunning stuff.
Really tight window for Pignoni to hit. Maybe Singleton a little surprised that Pignoni opted to let it go. But ultimately his responsibility to make that play.
Rosenberg picks up, gets it to Leo Gordon. See if Cam Kearney can be a factor here. Kearney rejoined Brown after missing last year. The deep shot looking for Gordon. Oscar Lowe is in fact the intended target, and Dylan Hawkins, Seth Freed make sure that Lowe had no shot.
UNC defense hustling to help out. Done a nice job of that thus far. You'd like to see Brown maybe playing the backside for a tip or something like that, but UNC is going to take the ball.
Well, he played 7 points before the initial delay here in this game. Of course, this game was delayed nearly 3 hours before it could start. With more weather perhaps coming, every score, every moment here is critical. This is just the second multi-turnover point of the game so far.
BMO's doing a lot of switching in the back of the stack, and that may free up a breakdown if they're not careful.
Freed is open deep. North Carolina looks him off. Rosenberg just not really bothering to guard Seth Freed. Bottom of your screen now coming back under. Pignoni. Over to Freed. To McKnight. Dameron bolting up the line. Cross field. And it's Eli Freed with his 4th goal of the game for Darkside.
Nice teamwork from Darkside to generate that score. It's a great example of how you can do damage on offense without getting the disc. Dameron pushing hard into that open space attracts all the defensive attention of Brown. McKnight wisely waits for that play to develop, and Freed spaces out to the back corner for the score from McKnight. All set up, though, by Dameron playing aggressively. And another goal for Eli Freed. And he's gotten it in a couple different ways, but often playing off of his teammates and just waiting for the play to happen the way that it's designed to.
Bad news, folks. We just heard 3 more horns. Lightning is again too close to the action. And in excruciating fashion, this battle between champions will come to a halt again. UNC and Brown have won the last 5 championships in the men's division. And in their first game at Nationals in 2024, we're tied 8-all with no end in sight. So, Keith, you can get back to that journaling you were doing during the break, and hopefully we'll be back with everybody soon. But for now, for our entire Ulti-World crew who's riding out these delays with you, for Keith Rayner, I'm Evan Leffler. UNC and Brown, 8-all. Timeout on the field. Mother Nature has something to say.
Welcome back to Ulti-World's live streaming coverage of the 2024 Division I College Championships, coming to you from Madison, Wisconsin. We're back for another take at UNC and Brown, a pool play matchup between the number 1 and number 8 overall seeds. It has been hotly contested. Keith Rayner now joined by Katie Killebrew in the booth for what we hope will be the conclusion of this really exciting matchup that has been a little off-kilter due to the fact that we've had a couple of different lightning delays. But when the field has been occupied by these players, they've been putting on quite a show.
Absolutely. One of the things I've really loved is the long throws we've been able to see in this game. Absolutely full field hucks from both teams that have really, I dare say, illuminated the sky in a lightning delay, but absolutely lit the crowd on fire. And I think that that's one of the things that I'm looking to see as we get back into action is really who can come out firing. Out of the lightning delay, the moment we were allowed back on the field, UNC was here warming up, fired up, and then it took Brown a little bit longer to get back here. But we're all tied up as we start in this second half.
8-8 as we get into the second point of this second half. UNC able to achieve a hold on the first point of the second half. It's the only multi-turnover point in what has been a very clean game that has been dominated by these two offenses. And given all these breaks in the action, I should say, we're getting to see a lot of the star players crossing over. Horizontal stack for Brown as they begin. Elliot Rosenberg over to Cal Nightingale. UNC with half of their offensive line out there trying to cover Brown. Not doing much to slow down Jacques Nissen and company. Gordon trying to navigate the UNC zone look and kind of bounces out of the hands of the receiver. Nightingale not able to bring that in.
Yeah, McKnight put so much pressure on that defensive position. You can see that the sidelines are really lined. All the other teams that are not going to get into action today have decided that this is the game that they really want to see.
Given the history between these two teams, no surprise. Another big throw going up from Matt McKnight. Andrew Lee with lots of room. Just outside of the end zone, unable to run that in. That'll play, folks. Andrew Lee gets it back on the quick give and go, and couldn't walk the dog all the way into the end zone, but finishes the play off.
The fire with which North Carolina has come out into this, what feels like first point of the game, is really taking off where they left. They didn't let the energy sag, even though we've had a 2+ hour delay. And the defensive pressure that they were able to put on, really, I think Brown looks a little bit more shaken even than I've seen them. And they've had about an 8 to 12 minute warm up. They haven't been on the fields that long. And you can see McKnight there gets his hand on the disc, and that form, like I said, going end zone to end zone. There's nobody else who's there to put on a mark in that space. And then end zone efficiency right there on that end zone line, what you practice. That little give and go.
You know these teams rep that post-huck situation. How are we going to finish off possessions? Because so many teams have been undone by doing the hard part and then messing up the easy part. But these are two teams with a high level of execution, and the margins have been very thin. Ben Dameron winds at the pull for Dark Side. You can't really prepare for this, Katie. You don't simulate this situation very often. They're going back to the same play that scored them a big goal in the first half. Nissen huck to Gordon off the pull. Dameron's help coverage can't stop it. And bobbled and ultimately secured by Jacques Nissen. So all Nissen and Gordon as Brown bounces back with a hold.
It was almost a baseball slide there in the end zone by Nissen to really catch that disc and make sure of it. We've seen there's been a lot of rain today. Obviously, these turf fields don't do it, but you can see the turf almost spray up behind him as he caught that. And that big throw and following it down the field, creating space, gets this next give and go. I think that this is really a highlight of excellent throwing. And we don't have a lot of wind right now, so we're really going to get to see what these throwers can do.
Dameron peeling off on the help coverage, maybe knowing that play was coming, picking up on it, but just not able to get there. Both a compliment to Nissen's throwing and Gordon's speed. And that dynamic duo, the Brown pair of All-Americans. It's another impact play. Of course, UNC has their own All-Americans on their side, and we've seen really the stars go head-to-head in this contest. Eli Chang pulling for BMO. We've seen the rookies too, Chang and Seth Freed on the other end, both getting involved. Although it's been Seth's brother Eli who's been stuffing the stat sheet. He's got 4 goals. Deep shot going up for Dameron, also with separation, but covering ground is Oscar Lowe, but living up to his name. He was well below the heights Dameron reached to pull in that sky. Dameron's fired up, and that's not what you want to see if you're going up against UNC. When Dameron gets rolling, it can get hot in a hurry.
No, and McKnight is now unleashing a flick. We saw the backhand on the previous possession for UNC, and this is fading slightly to the break side. Dameron does a good job to push into space and then come back towards the disc. It's a really difficult play to make as a player, and especially difficult as a defender to get a hand on. I mean, that's the level that UNC is running on right now, and I think we're seeing a little bit of a pause in this moment, and I think Brown needs it, because right now, if we're talking about who is winning the energy game in this lightning delay, very strange day, it is very clearly North Carolina. And Brown, we know they can bring it, but they have to bring it now.
Dameron with a goal and an assist. Not only a two-time All-American, but a first-team All-Club selection last year. So he has been on a tear. Gets a break, though, as some of his teammates head out and get another round of Rutledge Smith versus Jacques Nissen, and Grayson Trowbridge up against Leo Gordon, set at the top of the screen. And this time, UNC is able to poach on that play. Andrew Lee sitting in the lane. Brown's forced into the reset game.
Yeah, really trying to stop the huck off of that pull play, and now they've settled into much more person defense. But Brown is so patient.
Gordon catches that under pressure and continues up the sideline. UNC making some defensive alterations. Smith fronting on Nissen, and somehow Gordon squeezes that disc into the tight window.
And they're having to squeeze into tight windows because the defense is so stifling on those handlers.
And they relent under the pressure. UNC takes the disc away. And UNC senses a chance to attack. Freed's got separation. Another deep shot from McKnight. Back to McKnight, and I'm not sure what happened there. Some conversation on the part of Brown. I think maybe a timeout called. I mean, that looked like he spiked it outside the end zone. That timeout was so fast. You don't see that very often.
No, I think a hand signal would have been a lot more clear there. I don't think I've ever seen a run-off timeout call, and that created so much confusion for Brown, honestly, and I think for everyone else except for UNC, who knew exactly what was happening.
I mean, timeout swag is a new level of risk. I mean, you got. I don't even know if he technically made the D with his hands. Like, if you were going to be by the letter of the law, that's a little dicey as far as, like, what's the point of adding the extra risk of potentially having a turnover there? But you know what? He's on fire right now. That's 3 straight bombs from McKnight, all completed. So, let him cook. That's what they say.
As a coach, I think you sometimes have to call hot hands, and coming out of this lightning delay, it is clearly McKnight who is the most fired up of everybody else on the field. Saw that he was getting it and the team wasn't in their end zone set. I love that aggressive timeout call.
Well, he'll come out against a set defense.
That hasn't worried them in the past, but we'll see what Brown can do.
This on the mark as McKnight and Smith go to work. And McKnight into traffic, but well executed as Trowbridge gets it, and that is another score for UNC. UNC with 2 breaks since we have returned to play.
That's a fucking start.
The way that the cut comes through almost nothing and just attacks forward in a way that nobody else can get there, is such good space making by UNC. They did really good job to create clear options and many different options. I think as a defender, sometimes you try to poach in that handler space, and that poach meant that somebody wasn't in momentum, really tightly covering that player in the end zone.
And on the other end, Darkside doing a great job taking space. They're rarely having to turn and look and wait for things to fill. I mean, McKnight looked to that space that Trowbridge was going into almost as if he knew somebody was going to come into that area. And that's just the system at work. Smart play by Darkside. So Brown suddenly in a bit of a hole. They'll have to try and work their way back out of. Offsides call. Game feels like it means more than just your average pool game, but these are two teams at the top of Pool A, the 1 and 8 seeds. Below them are Texas, Alabama, Huntsville, and Oregon State. Keep an eye on that Texas and Alabama, Huntsville
awareness
matchup.
on that offside pull is a hallmark, I think, of a well-coached team, knowing the rules, knowing the signal, and really taking advantage. Nissen doesn't hesitate to put that blade into space, but I think that that's a rough angle to try to make the reception at.
Nissen known for his blades, but blades are sharp. They can cut you, and they can be a tough catch too. So Nissen with his second turnover. UNC back to work. Looking for a reset, finds McKnight. Henry Chen now taking off after throwing that backwards, but there's a stoppage.
My guess would be a pick, given the gaggle of players gathered there in the middle of the field.
See if UNC's as good at assessing that problem as you are. Luke Dwan brings it in before it gets out of bounds, and now it's back in the hands of McKnight. Maybe 8 yards or so off his own goal line. Leo from Ben Dameron, and now UNC's got some room on the break side.
UNC continues to churn through cuts, but they're really getting players out in isolation.
Dameron up the line to Smith, and UNC strikes again. Don't worry, folks, this strike won't stop play quite yet.
If I'm remembering, I feel like I felt Ben Dameron almost call his shot to the back corner. And the defense was so cued into where he was looking that they jumped there, which left that open side straight up the line so open. It was like a deep fake almost, like really trying to get into the head of receivers or defenders who are looking at the throwers as opposed to maybe really cueing into the potential receivers. And I think that that's one of the things that UNC is doing better right now is they're waiting for open looks. You can see maybe that was a clear call, but certainly the defenders responded to it, leaving that front of cone space open, which, as you know, Keith, most scores happen right there by that front cone.
And that's something that I think we've seen as a trend developing is, teams are so good at running these triangle red zone sets that you're starting to see the implementation of more poaching and switching and even zones applied in the red zone. And what that means is more players are defending the thrower, or their point of attention is at the thrower. And so those fakes become more and more effective as they manipulate more and more defenders. A larger percentage of the full team focus being applied. So Dameron working the defense, and Smith gets up the line for the score. North Carolina gets another break, and they have been firing on all cylinders since returning from the most recent lightning delay. Meanwhile, on the other side, all 6 turnovers for Brown come from the hands of Leo Gordon and Jock Nissen. So high usage players, but right now we're also absorbing some of the mistakes for this team.
Right. I mean, but that's what happens when you have stars. You live by the stars and you die by the stars, essentially. Is like that's what you've agreed to as a team when you have players that have such high usage as they do. What's more concerning to me is the kind of like body language and lack of belief that I'm seeing from Brown. It's like they were really flying high earlier in this point. And despite the effort there, you can see who's winning that energy game. The UNC sideline has come alight with that defensive
roaring after
effort.
That Hawthorne Ham block gets underneath the floaty pass. Smith swinging it around. Andrew Lee looking for an option. You got to think this Brown offense is starting to get a little fatigued after multiple points having to come out against this UNC team that's, like you mentioned, rolling right now.
Yeah, I mean, but UNC is also having to throw a lot of throws, which speaks to the defensive intensity that Brown is bringing. We've seen that this is clearly a team that can and likes to score in 2 throws, but the fact that they're having to grind so much speaks to what Brown is doing on the field from a defensive perspective. And honestly, sometimes you just need to get your legs under you and run. I think the longer that they can play defense is...
Okay. And then I step in again, he started at 3. Okay. He took an extra step. As he caught it, I called travel, I started stalling.
Yeah. Once the rules are, once you catch it, you're establish a pivot. So once you catch it, he can start stalling.
Yep, so that's at 3. Yeah, I had not... Okay. Yep. Okay.
Coming in 3.
Count reset immediately, so that couple of seconds ended up being fairly irrelevant. Drawbridge able to keep that in bounds. UNC looking to almost salt this game away. Drawbridge. And Jason Manning now steps outside the end zone. And the easy dish, and that's bookends for Hawthorne Ham. And yet another UNC break. They have Brown on the ropes, Katie.
I did not know what to expect coming back into this game, but I didn't expect this many breaks in a row after the really close back and forth low turnover game that we saw beforehand. And I think one of the U24 coaches that I was talking to at the break said they were very excited about this break because you can really see how players respond when you're throwing really unconventional sets of circumstances at them. And this is very unconventional. I don't know that I've ever had a 3 lightning delay, almost 8-hour spread between the beginning of a game and the point we are now. But in this case, it looks like more of the players on UNC are excited to be here, and Brown looks more shell-shocked by those circumstances.
Coming into this segment of the game, Brown had played 16 points with 3 turnovers. Since coming back, they have 4 turnovers and 6 points. They have yet to get the disc back. Time to find out what this BMO team is made of, because their backs are against the wall. 13-9, UNC in control after a 4-goal run. And Nissen finally puts an end to it. Throw up the line. Jason Tapper on the receiving end for his 2nd goal. And Brown breaks into double digits now with 10 of their own.
When they're firing, they're so pretty. This throw is perfectly weighted so that is an easy inbounds, 2-handed clap catch in the front of the end zone. But they weren't really getting opportunities to throw those because they're getting stuck. You can feel that like molasses pace that happens due to the UNC pressure. But we're going to have to see, what these players that have been sitting on the sideline, the defensive players for Brown, can they get a stop? Can they get a possession?
You mentioned earlier the body language of this Brown team and how it wasn't exactly where you would like it to be as a coach. And let me tell you, what we just saw after that score is in stark contrast to the Brown team we saw before the breaks. They were scoring, and every score was a celebration. Every score was a look over at a UNC team like, hey, you like that? We had Jock Nissen shrugging after he was throwing scores. And now the scores feel like they're relief. So Brown's got to find a way to find some new energy after giving up this run to UNC. Now, we do know this is a very seasoned Brown team. They've played from behind many a time. But you don't want these last few points to feel like a formality.
Yeah, D-line doing a little bit of a poach scheme. Giving up those easy resets, but making upfield movement a little bit more of a puzzle.
Yeah, we've seen this set from them before, with Gordon and Kearney playing it in the backfield, and then a lot of defenders up around the disc trying to clog things up. UNC looking pretty comfortable as they're keeping the disc moving. I do wonder, having watched this previously, as Pignoni finds a big hole in the middle up to Freed. I wonder if having Kearney, who's such an impactful defender, has a lot of length, if having him closer to the disc, where he could apply more of that to a greater volume of throws, might be more effective than having him kind of hang out downfield, where he mostly is a deterrent rather than an impact player. UNC undeterred as they go into the end zone, and a little post up from Dylan Hawkins after the score.
Dylan Hawkins brings it in for the backside score. UNC
I think
14, Brown 10.
Tactically, as a coach, you also have to coach the moment. And maybe this is a defense that those players are really confident in, that has given them a lot of success at other points in this season. I think with no wind to speak of, against a team that is as skilled at long shots and slicing and dicing as North Carolina, as well as North Carolina is willing to lose yards on their reset, which gives their handlers more space and better angles. It's really difficult to make that defense work, especially in, a situation where time is of the essence, in that now North Carolina 1 point away from taking this game.
Maybe Brown also doesn't want to show any more wrinkles. Maybe they're like, we got a lot more games ahead of us, weather permitting, and we can keep some stuff in the pocket, because who knows, we may see UNC or another team in a big game in the future.
Well, I want to see them score again, because point differential is going to matter, I think, more in these pools in this Nationals and maybe any Nationals in recent memory.
Some poaching on UNC's part. Stops some of the deep looks, but Rosenberg and Brown now past midfield. Lots of room. A nice outside in forehand from Gordon, and he finds Cal Nightingale. So you got your wish, Katie, a BMO goal. They make it 14-11.
It'll be interesting to see if they try to do that defense again, if they're going to try to go person. They haven't really been able to find their feet, and they haven't had that many reps in a row in order to get into a defensive rhythm. I think that's one of the things that we'll lose in these kind of truncated games, is that defense really can't learn offense in the same way that they would in a full spectrum game. And props to Brown. They did a really good job of bringing it back. The question is it a little bit too late? It looks like Gordon is going to cross over again on this defensive possession, as well as Nissen.
They were crossing over very frequently in the first portion of this game. And, of course, these players are probably pretty well rested, given that they've spent more time going to and from the fields, probably than playing on them.
Although I can't really say that sitting in a car in your cleats is what I would call restful.
A blown coverage is going to free up Dylan Hawkins as he runs away from the defense and runs into a dark side win. A dominant post-break showing from UNC sees them move to a 15-11 victory. Very impressive showing on the part of Darkside.
That game feels almost like I wanted to see the full thing all at once. I wanted to see what these two teams would bring together and clashing, and the Lightning denied us the clash of titans that we really wanted. But one thing I will take away from this game is both of these teams are really skilled, but for me, North Carolina was much more prepared for the moment and prepared for the chaos of national championships. Obviously, they have been here before.
And not the third act that I think the viewers were hoping for. And certainly not unless you're a UNC fan, in which case you loved what you got because they were clicking. And right now, this UNC team has to feel real confident about what they can do moving forward because we know this Brown team is a tough customer. The regional champ out of New England, perhaps the best region in the country. And take a look at the numbers. These numbers were extremely even the last time I took a look at them, and they've certainly shifted in one team's favor.
Yeah, I mean, clean holds, both teams exactly the same, but in the terms of total turnovers and the conversion of breaks, 5 out of 6 break chances is a really extraordinary percentage for really any level of Frisbee, and I think that is really a testament to the work that North Carolina have put in and the depth that they've really grown because their D-line has so many weapons that once they get the disc, they're not going to give it back to you.
So UNC marches out of this one with a 15-11 victory. A very close game. We were tied at 8. Came back from the break. UNC got a break and kept adding to that tally, led by the deep throwing of Matt McKnight. He was scorching hot.
He absolutely was. It was really interesting to watch the teams gather onto the field coming out of that break. McKnight was one of the players that I saw dancing, thriving, really warming up, but really the whole squad of UNC, and they are a big bunch of people, even though we say the same names over and over again. I think it's that depth and belief that they had as a team that really brought them through this very unprecedented Lightning delay nationals.
So an unusual path to a UNC victory, but they do take it down 15-11 with a very strong close to this one. For Brown, the number 8 seed, this game is 2 seed, but you got to think they had high expectations for how they could compete with UNC, and they're going to feel disappointed by this ending result. Darkside, the 3-time national champs, and they looked the part in dismantling Brown down the stretch. Deep throws going up from both sides to great effect, particularly in the beginning of the game. And the energy was high, but it was the unrelenting pressure of UNC that stood out as both their stars and their players down the bench got involved in a big win. Darkside triumphs. Number 1 seed takes a 15-11 win on their journey towards another title.